Usually, when you're programming Arduino, you use things like C and C++, which is what I use all the time now. But as an introductory thing, when you're used to using JavaScript, going over to C is kind of annoying. They also have libraries for Ruby and Python, or if those are languages that you're more comfortable in as well. The first thing I did was make something light up, which is the hello world of hardware. You make something light up. So over a weekend hack weekend, I made some lights happen with JavaScript, and it felt super powerful. I was like, this is so neat. I have made this happen. And then the second thing that we did is make this sweet Christmas sweater. Do you guys know the Node Knockout? So every year, has anyone participated in the Node Knockout? I see a hand. A couple of hands. OK. So the Node Knockout is a worldwide competition that happens once a year. The year that we did it had 700 teams around the world. You get a team of 4 people, and you build a product together in a weekend. And at the end of the weekend, you submit your project, and it gets judged by a panel of judges. So we built this Christmas sweater where you go online, and you type in something, and it shows up on the sweater. It's the most useless thing ever, but we won the Innovation Award, which is really awesome. We have these great boxing shorts that they sent us. So that was super fun, and it was a great weekend, and I learned all types of things. That thing is called an LOL shield, which stands for lots of LEDs. And in order for have words go across it, you have to control each individual LED and pass in a library that has fonts so that you can spell words. I just always assumed that, OK, you just type the words in and they show up. But it was interesting and neat to control each LED and figure out this is how we're going to make the word go across the screen. So there's a lot of stuff in the NodeBots community, which is really neat. There is NodeBots Day. These are weekends that happen usually in July, where people from around the world just make really cool stuff with NodeBots and share it. It's not a competition or a hackathon. People just make cool stuff. I've seen one really neat thing about NodeBots Day is that people of all ages participate. I see families. I see dads and moms go with their kids and build neat robots over a weekend and demo it. It's a really neat experience for everyone. I had great experience at JSConf and RobotsConf. The original JSConf in Florida that inspired all these amazing JSConfs around the world. And RobotsConf, which is a relatively new conference, which just focuses on NodeBots. And Chris Williams, who runs JSConf, built Node Serial Port, which is the way that Arduino talks to your laptop. And so he's really passionate about NodeBots. And so he put together these sweet activities at JSConf. Nodecopter, which I think you're seeing a demo of later, is a way to control the AR drones from JavaScript. The AR drones work like a web server, where you can just send it commands from your laptop. The coolest thing I've seen so far is there's a video online. I'm going to reference a couple things. There's videos on my blog. I'll share a link later. But the coolest thing I've seen is a gentleman, you know Dance Dance Revolution, DDR, the game where you dance? So he hooked up a DDR pad to an AR drone and did Gangnam Style as part of a hackathon competition, which was really neat. So there's lots of cool stuff you can do. Node rockets is also really interesting. They are rockets controlled by JavaScript, which seems like a terrible idea, but no one has been hurt yet, I don't think. And node boats are literally boats that race in a swimming pool that you build over a weekend. So like I said, you have to get the Parrot AR drone. I haven't seen it work with other drones. They're open source, and they're really awesome. You can also make your own, though. I've seen some people make their own drones that are neat. The Parrot AR drones aren't cheap, so usually I ask someone that works at a company that owns them if we can borrow them. You can treat your laptop as a server and make them fly. The node boats, these are made out of soda bottles, and you can get a servo and an Arduino. Make sure to keep everything dry inside. And you can do really neat races around the pool. You can find all this stuff online. There's videos on nodebots.com. The Node rockets is what's really interesting. They use PVC piping as a base and a hose and soda bottles. And they got some serious height. I saw them going at least 4 stories high. It was pretty cool. So there's a whole world that I've discovered as part of JSConf and RobotsConf. I was also introduced, they gave away Spark cores, which are tiny Arduinos that have Wi-Fi enabled. So as you can see, compared to the hand, it's really small. And you can use it to talk to all kinds of things. They're designing it to use at home. They just released one that's actually $19, which is awesome. And you can use it to talk to things around your home, especially things that have existing Wi-Fi. Their concept is to make the smart home. And if you look at their repository for the Spark core, it's really neat because it's completely open source hardware. It's actually the best open source hardware repository I've ever seen, because you can get everything from the Eagle files to make your own Spark core. If you have the means to produce one of your own, they're like, just make one of your own. You know, you don't have to buy it from us. So the schematics, everything is included in their repository, which is pretty awesome. So these are some projects that people have made. This is a doorbell that works outside, and it sends you an email when someone's at your door, which is pretty cool. This is a word clock, which is a really cool looking clock. Another thing that I discovered at JSConf is super awesome Sylvia. She is great. If you have not looked her up, please do if you've not seen any of her videos. She was the keynote last year at RobotsConf. Her and her dad have built some really neat things. And one thing that she built is a watercolor. So it's a watercolor machine where you upload an SVG to the machine, and it paints it just in watercolor. So you can just put an image, and it'll watercolor. It matches the tone of the image exactly as well. It's really neat. So she's super inspiring because also she's 13, and she's done all this stuff online. So I got to meet her and find out what she was interested in, and that was a really cool experience. So then after that, there's also this show. Have you seen this show? It's called Control-Alt-Delete. You should look it up. I don't know if you guys can get it here, but if you pirate things, it's a really cool show. Not that I endorse that. So some things past JSConf, these are Instructables. And as you can see, these things are becoming pretty mainstream. They partnered with Home Depot and Radio Shack and other really big online institutions to do-it-yourself stuff at home, which is pretty neat. I think it's especially neat because it shows how much mainstream this stuff is becoming and how accessible they're trying to make it for everyone. You can go on Instructables and find how to make food or how to make some really neat stuff. These are all light-up clothes and different things like that. The suit in the middle is a Tron suit that I tried to make. It did not work out that great, but it looks awesome in the picture. But yeah, Instructables has all kinds of things, and everything is step-by-step. So if you want to build something in hardware, it's really detailed. There's a support forum if you have trouble. And hopefully you won't end up like me, and you can make something a little bit better than that. I also discovered, as part of that research, Becky Stern. She works for Adafruit. And Adafruit is a company that does open source wearables. And they also sell parts like Arduino. They do there are Arduinos that you can sew into clothes. I think it's the Adafruit Flora they do now. You can also do conductive thread. So you can take an Arduino, sew it into your clothes, take conductive thread, and sew in LEDs and different things like that. It's really neat, and they have instructions all over online. I worked with a 13-year-old girl who made a sweatshirt that has directionals on her back so that when she rides her bike, she can just hit a button in her sleeve, and she has an arrow on the back of her sweatshirt, which is pretty cool. And they have all the instructions for things like that on Adafruit. They make this really neat stuff. That on the top left is makeup. That's conductive makeup. So these girls put conductive material into makeup, put these LEDs on their foreheads, and it looks awesome. I mean, if you were walking down the street, it would be really startling, but it looks really neat, I think. That tie changes color with music. A lot of this stuff you maybe couldn't wear to work every day, but it's really neat. There's videos online, and like I said, they're on my blog as well. This is a microphone holder that changes color, and that's a sweet bike helmet, and no one can miss you if you're wearing that bike helmet. So these are all the things that I've been learning about in the past couple of years. The world of open source wearables and open source things have been really accessible. People are also super nice. The first couple hackathons I went to, I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Someone next to me was super helpful. And now when I'm at a hackathon and someone's like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm like, oh, let me show you. It's an awesome world. I'm sure you've had the same experience, though. I had the same experience in the JavaScript world. It translates really well to NodeBots. It's the same attitude of let's all learn together. So this is the first thing I made. It's really ugly. It's a Christmas ornament with a light in it. I even tried to put other stuff with it to make it look a little bit better. But I just figured, hey, I want to make something that looks nice and is a wearable, and I want to make it of my own. So I did that, and that took me a while, actually. It took me a while, and this changed color based on your Twitter status. So if your Twitter status, and that's on my GitHub, if your Twitter status is sad, it changes to blue, and things like that. And so this is the first design of it, and this is the second design of it. Now it looks a little better, and these CAD files are online as well if you want to laser cut flower or I guess the body of the necklace. You can do that, but it changes color based on your Twitter feed. So in order to go from really ugly jewelry to this, I found some people on Etsy, and I was like, I need to design something. Can you help me? They were like, OK. And I got designs from them, and I worked with them to collaborate on something like this. And now we're here. And this, inside a JuliBot, lives a web server that is 4 millimeters by 4 millimeters, which is crazy. It's so small. And all the things that I learned from NodeBots translates here. All the Bluetooth modules I worked in NodeBots translates to this tiny Bluetooth module that we're working with now. And some of the components I'm using are the same, like the same motor that you use and you get from Adafruit is what we're using, and the same type of LiPo batteries is what we're using. So all of this stuff has translated really well to doing this full time now. And we're part of a Highway 1 accelerator in San Francisco. And they've been really helpful, but I wouldn't be able to do it at all if it weren't for NodeBots in general. So if you want to get started with this, I want to say it's easy, right? It sounds like it might not be easy, but it is. Feel free to reach out on my blog or Twitter or anything. This is what you need. You need an Arduino Uno, and you need an LED. And if you go to the Johnny 5 repository, and just look in the LED library, it's really, you can just copy and paste some code to get it working for the first time. And once you get that working for the first time and you have that blinking light in front of you, it's such an empowering experience. You feel like a god. You're like, I have made this happen. So I highly recommend. I hope that some of the stuff you see today inspires you to get started, and feel free to reach out at any time. Thank you.